I'm not sure if the voting results are public yet.
Oh,
Yeah, but
I
we
see.
have finished all the voting for the news curator and vice curator, which will have the new. So we'll start in July 1st.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Okay, so we are live on Facebook. So hello everyone, I am Sadahat. I'm from Faisalabad hub in Pakistan, and today we will have another live session on COVID-19 and discussing the situation in China. And for this, I have my fellow shaper from China with me today. So we have Troy from Beijing 2 Hub and Michael from Hong Kong Hub. So you can introduce yourself, Troy. You start, and then we can just like move on.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'm Hong Yi. You can call me Troy from Beijing 2 Hub. Our hub is the International Global Shaper Hub in Beijing. We've got more than 40 shapers from very diverse backgrounds who are working or studying in Beijing, dealing with the local and regional challenges and issues. We are also promoting different initiatives and projects during this pandemic. Very happy to be with you again to talk about the latest in the developments of the COVID-19 pandemic and what's happening on the ground. And very eager to learn from your sides, from other shapers in Greater China, in Hong Kong, in Shenzhen, what's happening, and looking forward.
Thank you. Okay, Michael, could you give a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Michael from the Hong Kong Hub. So we currently have 31 shapers in the Hong Kong Hub, represented by more than 10 nationalities. And we come from many different backgrounds, from startup to nonprofit to academia to finance, legal. So we have a very diverse group of people. So yeah, and we have many different initiatives in the community. For example, we work on refugee issues. We have an initiative called Learning Together. We have an initiative on mental health called Shaping Minds, which I'm also leading in the hub. So yeah, and looking forward to learn more about what's happening in other parts of the Greater China.
Oh, okay. I think she might be back. Can you hear me? Okay. So, okay, she can join us later. So I'll start with the conversation. So as you all know, last year in December, like 2019, December, there was the COVID-19, also referred to coronavirus. It was discovered in Wuhan, China. And from there, it spread all around the world. Currently, the center of this pandemic is Europe and also the US. So, but today we will focus on China because China has struggled a lot with the pandemic and they are currently coming down with the curve. So I really would like to know what's happening there. So Michael, could you start and tell us how Hong Kong is doing right now?
Sure. So a little bit of update about the Hong Kong situation. So today is the third day where we have zero infections. So which is great, and we have been having these like single digit of infection for a couple of for weeks, which is great. So which means that the numbers are dwindling, and hopefully things will get back to normal, whatever normal means for everyone. But I think for the past couple of weeks, because of the numbers, people have been sort of getting back into like the day-to-day life. Like places are getting busier. Like people never, I think even during the worst time, people actually did not really stop working. There were like measures like working from home that everyone is like doing. So I think and this is like a brief sort of what's happening right now in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the information. Troy, can you tell us something about Beijing? Because we had the first live session with Beijing Hub, and so we kind of had an idea about how it began and how it was at that time. So it's really nice to know like the current situation in Beijing.
Some updates about myself. I'm still stuck at home in Sichuan province, which is in western part of China. But I'm been following all the updates, the news happening in Beijing. Because Beijing, as we know, is capital of China, so there's some measures still in place, despite the fact there's not so many new cases happening on the ground. But what right now the local government is trying to do is prevent the so-called imported cases from overseas. So there's some extreme measures to do, 14 days self-quarantine for anyone coming out of, Beijing city. That's including the foreigners or Beijingers, Beijing residents who traveled outside of Beijing. Even though you go on the business trip to Shanghai, when you go back, you have to put on yourself for another 15 days of quarantine. So there's some extreme measures, still in place because of it's a political economic center of China. So that's part of the reason why I'm still stuck at home in Sichuan. I'm not planning to go back anytime soon until the quarantine policy is lifted. But I'd say the vibes, the atmosphere is pretty much east. People are starting to get back to work. We can see the crowded traffic again on the street, which is very positive sign. And many of my friends are still working from home these days just to prevent from potential cases. But funny thing is that they actually think they are still, pretty much as productive as they used to be in the office. So I don't think there's so much damage to the current economy, but all the measures are still in place. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Okay, hi Sheila, can you hear me?
Hello, sorry about the net problem just now. Yeah.
No. So how are you doing?
Yeah, good. I actually came back to Shenzhen from Wuhan about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I was trapped in Wuhan for like more than 2 months.
Okay. So can you tell us something about the current situation in Shenzhen?
Yeah, so it's almost getting to normal life that except that people still keep wearing a mask in the crowded places. Can you hear me? I think the net is not that. Okay, so I think in Shenzhen, people are getting into normal life. There are only a very few occasional confirmed cases, which we think are almost under control here, that will not affect our daily life. And we still have get together with friends, but of course, we'll still have going to have fewer gatherings than usual. And in some industry here, like the internet and the technology industry, people are realized that most of the work can be done at home. So I think there are going to be more freelancers and more studios in Shenzhen, like in some specific industries. Yeah, it's still kind of difficult to travel around at this time in Shenzhen. Yeah, because when moving from the areas with higher risk to lower risk areas, that would be very difficult. You need to like show your health QR code and maybe show the results of the nucleic acid test. That would be very difficult. So people are just trying to avoid traveling around at this time. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you told us you came back from Wuhan like 2 weeks ago. So what was the situation back there?
It's getting much better. It's getting much better. The confirmed cases turned back to 0 like in the last month. Yeah, and working and life are getting back to normal. Just there are some psychological issues still in Wuhan. People are afraid to to be in the crowds and afraid to have dinner outside. There still needs a long time to recover, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what I can tell you about like Pakistan or Faisalabad in general, that's the city where I live in, is that like you are telling me all that it's getting kind of back to the normal, and here it's like it's getting started, if I can say so. So yeah, the first cases they were like a month ago or something, and now they have increased a lot. And it was like said that the most cases, like 78% of the cases, came from the people who immigrated from Iran to Pakistan. So yeah, so that's the current situation. So the most cases are in provinces like Punjab. So that's where Faisalabad is, like where I am currently in. And yeah, so we are kind of in the middle of the whole situation right now. So, and it's anticipated that it's going to increase in the following weeks, the number of cases. So yeah, that's the current situation here. Everyone is at home. There is no proper lockdown implemented, but it's suggested to the people to stay at home. So yeah, that's how it's going on right now. So Michael, I would like to continue with you. Can you tell me something about like just I'm telling you the government hasn't implemented a proper lockdown, but has suggested us to stay at home. So how did the government deal there at your end?
So right now, for example, I think it's similar to Troy. Like everyone coming in needs to, from outside, out of Hong Kong, when they're arriving in Hong Kong, they need to undergo a 14 days quarantine. They will need to do the test. There are some sort of social distancing rules implemented until, if I remember correctly, it should be May 7th, where no more than a group of 4 should be in public. So that's another thing that happened, and businesses, particularly businesses that might attract crowds, for example, gyms or karaoke, beauty salon. So these types of places are being asked to shut down for until May, early May, because there were some previous cases that were detected in those locations. So yeah, so these are some of the things that the government has done so far. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So Troy, what can you tell us about like Beijing, what you know about that, and then the place where you are at right now?
All right. So, excuse me. Fortunately, I came back right before the whole situation got worse. So I was home for the Chinese New Year holiday. It turned out to be a 3 months extended vacation for me. I'm still home actually. And good thing about this part of China is that like once the situation got worse in Wuhan, the epicenter, when the central government took action. And I think the whole province, Hubei province, including Wuhan, was effectively locked down. And so the virus actually was well contained within the province. So Wuhan citizens and the people from Hubei actually made a big sacrifice for being locked down. So to actually save people in other places in China from attracting the virus. So actually in my city called Mianyang, Sichuan, in total, we only got like well over 100 cases, which was like no big of deal. Like I personally, I haven't gone through like very enforced self-quarantine. Like I can still go outside of my residence, my compound, but I need to wear masks. I need to take temperature and all that. I still can travel freely in general. And after Wuhan was the lockdown was lifted, like everything pretty much I'd say go back to 90% normal. Besides people still wearing masks sometimes. And yeah, I think it's pretty much getting back normal here in this part of China. And in Beijing, just again, like some extreme issue, extreme measures still in place. And all the question is that like how the government gonna draw the line between the economic development and really the contain the virus. Like when they will finally lift the self-quarantine policy, because that's really making a people's life who are supposed to be in Beijing to work a bit complicated, problematic.
True.
Yep, yep.
Could you repeat your last sentence? I didn't hear that it stopped.
I mean the self-quarantine policy is still in place, which is making people's life, the ones who are supposed to get back to Beijing for their career, for their jobs, for their work, a little bit complicated and problematic. Yeah, myself included.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can completely understand that. Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about that definitely later on. So, Shaila, can you tell me something about the government measures that has been taken there in Shenzhen, and also what was happening in Wuhan, because that's really important to know.
Okay, so in January in Wuhan, the confirmed cases increased very fast, and the hospitals are overloaded. The people crowded into hospitals, and there are some who are anxious that crowd into hospitals to try to take the test, which further burden the limited resources in the hospital. And then I think it is effective of the centralized management of the all the patients, even with very mild symptoms, they are all taken to the cabin hospitals. We call it cabin hospitals, which is temporary transform the gyms or the schools into temporary hospitals. So when all the patients got centralized management, other people are feeling safer. But in Wuhan, the lockdown is like the complete lockdown. We are asked try not to like wandering in the community. Yeah, so I just kept like haven't got downstairs for like 2 months. Yeah. um that is very strict in Wuhan, the lockdown policy. And in Shenzhen, before I came back from Wuhan, I will have to take the nucleic acid test before I leave Wuhan. Yeah, and then when I get back to Shenzhen, I will have to take the test again, just to make sure that I didn't get affected on the trip. And then I'll have a 14-day of the like the community health management supervision. That is an officer that takes the notes of my temperature and my health situation. Yeah, under the supervision for like 14 days, and then after the test, and I can be free, walk wandering around and having dinner with friends. Yeah, I think the first one is to make sure that all people from the higher risk areas are under supervision or under some management, health management. And the second one is to launch the massive the test for all the like the children and the teachers that are about to starting the schools. Yeah, that is I think is a very useful method to control the spread of the virus. Yeah, that is the two things happening here in Shenzhen. Yeah. So
Your season of lockdown was implemented. Like, how did people react? Like, how were people like dealing with the whole situation at that moment?
in Wuhan.
Yeah, in Wuhan.
Actually, in Wuhan, the community volunteers really helped a lot. When the locking down happened, everyone got panic and they all rushed to supermarkets to stock up on food. And then the community volunteers and community officers helped to arrange the group purchasing in the community. That is to collect everyone's requirements and then contact to the supermarkets or the stores, and then bring the food to the gate of the estate. when the necessities is taken to the estate, people stop. There will be much less anxious in the citizens. Yeah, and I think the first one is the community volunteers, and the second one is the like the having hospitals. Yeah, that will help a lot.
Okay. Yeah, Michael, can you tell us about like how the people there reacted, like in Hong Kong, regarding all the measures that were taken?
I want to. I think I would say it reminds people of like what happened a couple 17 years ago, like SARS. Like we were still sort of. I was just a kid at that time, and I can still remember myself wearing mask every day and taking body temperature every day while going to school. And this is a very I think for most people in Hong Kong it's a trauma, and this pandemic actually reminds everyone of this trauma. But at the same time, we know the drill, and we know that even before the government announce what to do, we already know we need to do the hand washing, we need to have the hand sanitizer, we need to wear the mask. Of course, like social distancing is definitely a new thing to us, I think. But then otherwise, Hong Kong people are ready, even though psychologically it's hard. Like after 17 years, well, again, something similar like this. But then, yeah, I think Hong Kong people like is ready. They reacted really quickly. But then there's also another issue that sort of happened. That is the mental health issue that sort of that impact many people across different age and different industries. For example, like everyone's working at home. And this is sort of like for most part in Hong Kong, it's a new thing for most employees and employers. For employees, it's psychologically impacting them in a way that they have lost that colleague, that community, and there's a sort of loneliness, and there's a lot of cabin fever. Like people are stuck in like their home for a very long time. And because kids are also out of school, they don't need to go to school. School closed down. So the kids were also at home, and the parents need to take care of the kids and like to continue the education at the same time of doing all the video conferencing at home. And it's, I think like it's for them is that part that is more impacts them more. And yeah, so I think these are some things that how people are reacted, and some and their reaction to this pandemic.
Yeah, and can you tell us something about like how people tackled on that situation, like with the issues that arise, like working from home and having to take care of the kids at the same time? So how did people manage that, and how did they manage their mental health? You have something to say about that?
Yeah, so I think in terms of that, for some people who are better at that, they actually create some sort of routine for their kids every day, a very structured way for their kids to. It's almost like school, but then it's just a different venue. I mean, human beings, they hate uncertainty. They like something that they know they could predict. So having that sort of routine helps for parents to sort of help their kids to guide their day, but also for the kids itself, they know what's gonna happen next. And having that routine also helps the parents as well. I mean, like same idea, setting up when to take a rest, when to do work. It helps. And also in terms of video conferencing and tackling loneliness, there are some companies who schedule daily check-ins for the employees. not related to work, but just to check in and see whether they are okay or not, psychologically, emotionally, if there's anything that the company could support them with. So these are some things that some companies are doing. In my company that I'm working in, so we actually scheduled a company-wide. I work in a nonprofit, so it's a smaller, a lean team. It's about 23 people, and we actually organize a company-wide meeting just to check in with everyone and see how everyone is doing. Because we are also an international team. We have someone living in the UK. We have someone in India. So we have these sort of meetings to check in with people and see how they are doing. And I think this is how people having that sort of human touch for employees to know that the company cared about them actually helps them to manage all these uncertainty and these sort of psychological impact to themselves. So yeah.
That's pretty good, and definitely feel like it's a time where everyone should stay connected to each other, because when we say social distancing, we mean like not being too near to a person, like physically, but not like the social distancing in a sense of like don't talk to each other, because
Yep.
that's really important. So and I heard like I had a night session with Singapore Hub, and Sahid was there, and he told me like something same. He said like they have like on a daily basis, not regarding the meetings or the work stuff, but they talk to each other. They take a coffee and then they sit and they're talking to each other just to check and balance on the people there. So that's a great thing. But on the other hand, I think, I don't know what your people opinions is about that, and you can definitely tell me, because what I think is like when we have that conversations, we are just like with the employers, with the employees, we're chilling via Zoom or something. So what happens is that people are not that much more effective anymore. Is that something that you observe? Can you tell me something about that?
Are you saying like productivity or stuff like
Exactly.
that? Um, so I think in terms of productivity, that definitely like things are. I mean, in terms of, for example, client engagement or businesses, is definitely is slowed down during this period, and because of that, I think in sort of productivity, it's, I wouldn't say it's not as high, but because demands are also like there's a decrease. So yeah.
Okay, great. Troy, what can you tell me about like the people's reaction to the measures that have been taken?
Sorry,
there?
come again? What's the question?
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to know the people's reaction there, like to the measures that the government had taken at the moment when everything was like locked down and everything.
So people definitely freaked out because it's, yes, it's in certain ways it's similar to what happened 17 years ago, for SARS. But this time it's definitely in a larger scale and more deadly. And so people kind of freak out. But good thing about here in China is like people, we don't have that very individualism in our blood. Like Chinese people really like to, follow the guidelines, follow the rules. And when this kind of crisis, public health crisis hits, and people turn their heads to the authority, they listen to the government. Unlike what's happening right now, we see there's some backfires in Europe, in America. We see protests on the street. People are actually protesting for social distancing. Sometimes I find it a bit ridiculous. So in China, we have this very kind of tight, and some people may say it's a bit authoritarian, managing style here. But good thing is that in dealing with this kind of crisis, when people follow the rules, follow the guidelines, the outcome is usually, so much better. So actually, personally, I think it's, a good result so far. Like we managed to contain the virus. One of the great news I hear today is actually there's no more existing cases in a hospital in Wuhan, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Sheila, but I heard there's no more cases anymore. There's no victim, no virus in Wuhan. So it's a big progress. And it's a bit of interesting to see how the table has turned. Now it's we here in China watching the coronavirus pandemic unfold in other places, right? And we can really make some interesting comparison in how the dealing of the governments. But in general, Chinese government's dealings with the government is really strict, imposed using some technologies. Xia mentioned the QR code. I can quickly, put out my QR code, the green. So it's something like this.
Yeah.
So if you're in green color, which means you've never been to the hard hit, virus zones, and you are safe to travel to some places in general. And there's a yellow color, which is alert to others. You need to be maybe self-quarantined. And there's a red color. So there's some technologies leveraged to contain the virus. And of course, there's some privacy concern, and the technology is still under development because it's not interconnected. Like different cities, different municipal governments have different technologies, different QR codes, different policies. But right now, the government trying to put them together to create a nationwide system, so the QR code can, become your kind of identification for you to go to different places. So I think there's another big difference. So how the privacy, how the data, how the monitoring surveillance systems being used in this public health crisis, that's a striking difference there. And adding on the Michael's points on the emotional struggles, I definitely sense that. And so some initiatives out of our Shapers Hub is that we have this caring network in our hub. So each week we are assigned to 2 or 3 Shapers to have this kind of exchanges, discussions, not only about the pandemic, but just your life in general, the work, the life, the funding things, etc. So I think that really helped a lot because I'm involved, and I think Shapers are managed to get to the deeper level of the conversations, so we can really open our heart and talk our struggles to share with other Shapers and get some comfort from that. Another initiative from the hub is to the open to the public, which is called Happiness Challenge 2020. So we have professors, mentors to do the daily tasks. Some interesting ones include the daily gratitudes. So the participants write down 3 gratitudes each day. Only like the tiny little bit things, like the great meal, nice weather, all that, to make the participants to have that sense of gratefulness. I think those are the ones we are doing, and very helpful in the time of this kind of uncertainty and challenges.
Yeah, definitely. Great.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello?
Wait. You.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes?
Hello, Troy?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
So I have a question for you, like real quick. Like I understand right now it's the Ramadan, right? It's a fasting month for Muslims countries. So I was wondering like how the people is dealing with this fasting issue, like for this whole month.
Yeah, okay, I'm really happy to tell you about that. So, first I would like to start with the government measures. So the thing is, the government, like I already said, is like they didn't implement a proper lockdown, but they suggested people to stay at home. So, comparing the people from Pakistan to Chinese people, as you said, you listen up to the rules, you look towards authorities, and you follow those rules. So I can't say that this is exactly the same case here in Pakistan right now. People didn't follow the rules, and there are some rebelling against the rules, like going out, still having those public gatherings and all that things. But we can see a slight shift from like that people are now recognizing after time, after the cases have increased, that this is a serious scenario right now all around the world. So apart from that, like how you mentioned Ramadan, so yeah, it's the fasting month. Today was the second day, and if like for like 2 or 3 weeks, actually the mosques, means the holy places where people go to pray, were closed, and nobody was allowed to go to like do the prayers, or like some people just go there and sit just like to have peace. So no one was allowed to enter those places. But now they have decided, like when we have Ramadan, we have those special prayers at night. So the mosques mostly are full; they are completely full. So regarding the current situation, still the government allowed the people to go to the mosques. They reopened the mosques for the holy month. So that was like a question mark for the most of the people, because when you are there, like social distancing and everything, like if you will consider these things, they are not, they cannot be completely implemented, because you are standing to each other. You are like, there is a public place, you are praying. When you are praying, mostly people are not like in their senses, like they're, completely gone, and they're just praying. You don't take care of what is currently around you, what is happening, you, who's touching you, or whatever. So what we have done for that, like what our hub has done, we have those like walkthroughs, like where then people can walk through those gates, and they get sprayed by those they get infected. Like if you walk through those, and those gates have been like placed in front of those mosques. So that's one of the measures that people are taking. Like our hub has taken those. Some other organizations are doing this. They're placing those gates in front of those mosques. Yeah, and apart from that, like people are still, like a lot of people are staying at home and doing the prayers at home. But the majority, like those people from those small towns, if I can say so, they go to the mosques, because a lot of people are like more focused on the month right now instead of the pandemic. So that's right now like the situation. Yeah.
Good to know.
So yeah, and what currently is going on here right now. Do you have some questions regarding this? Anyone, Michael or Sheila? Anyone have a question regarding this, like, or?
Not for now. Like I do have some questions in my mind, but I need to like sort of piece them together. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. You can just tell me, and you can ask again. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's how we are dealing right now. Yeah, so we were talking about like working places. People are now forced to work from their homes. Like as you said, we will see a lot of freelancing activities from people. So what can you tell us about like how are people doing this? How are people managing the whole scenario?
I'm sorry, I don't quite catch.
I'm asking like people are supposed to work from their homes right now. So I want to know like how are people managing this? Like I already discussed with Michael and Troy, and I would like to hear your opinion.
Okay. So actually, I actually run a startup company here in Shenzhen. So when I was trapped in Wuhan, all my colleagues are working here in Shenzhen, remotely at home. I think working at home needs more self-discipline. That means you have a lot of flexible times. You have to set your own schedule of like how when you get up and how you do the work. You have to make the plan yourself instead of like the boss set the rules for you. Yeah, and I think I'm in the internet and technology history that everyone realized that they have a something in some areas they're the experts, so they can have the skills remotely at home. They can work as a team, just like in the office. I think there is another big impact on this remotely working. That is the very huge impact on the office rental market. I observed that there are a lot of vacant offices here in Shenzhen. When people are getting used to, especially youngsters are getting used to be the freelancers and working from home, and maybe be, have their, writing or making coding for the life. So there is a very big problem here. There are many vacant offices here. Yeah, and I think here in Shenzhen, I think there are many social and psychological changes that bring the epidemic bring to us. That there are some youngsters are beginning to rethink of some issues such as life choices here in Shenzhen. Yeah, like in this fast-paced big cities, there are some people starting to realize the balance between life and work, and maybe a work and family. And there are some of them who choose to leave the big city of Shenzhen and get back to the hometown. Yeah, they want to spend more time to accompany with their family and friends, and maybe enjoying the life more. That is I think it's a very big change. Especially, I have some colleagues who just resigned and decided to get back to their hometown. Yeah, I think especially for the urbanites under a lot of pressure here in these big cities, they may have many other choices. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I also have seen this here, like a lot of people who came from those small towns into the city to work and earn some money, they went back actually as soon as they could. So yeah. Troy already mentioned some activities their hub is conducting regarding the current situation. So can you tell me something about your hub and what activities they have started?
Okay, so like 2 weeks ago, we organized a webinar about discussing the challenges and opportunities for the biotech and health tech industry, which the COVID-19 bring to this industry, and we invited some founders of the biotech companies to sharing this information of us. And our hub has a very small group that we only have 10 people, and we just launched a new recruitment that we are going to invite 14 new members here in Shenzhen hub. And we're about to launching a big project about this COVID-19, especially caring about the changes that the COVID-19 bring to young people. Like the psychologically, or to someone who are unemployed at this moment. We're offering some counseling, psychological counseling, to those who are in anxious situations, and we're hoping to provide some skills for them to have a new job. Yeah, we're planning to launch a new project like this.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's definitely great to see all the hubs having those great initiatives starting off. Michael, can you tell me something about your hub's activities right now going on regarding COVID-19?
Yeah, sure. So we did a webinar a couple weeks ago, if I remember correctly. It feels like a long time ago, but yeah, we did a first episode of Hub Talks, where we invited Sanju from the Bangkok hub, and Lucia from the Shanghai hub, and also Carol Liang from the Hong Kong hub, to talk about mental health specifically, and community well-being in their respective hubs, and how some sort of strategies that they are doing in their hubs. If they are heading a separate organization, how they are managing the organization, specifically in the well-being realm. So that's something that we have done. And upcoming, we are actually planning to do something called the empathy circle. So we want to facilitate some sort of empathy conversation online in early May, because while we are talking about mental health, I think even more important is having a foundation for people to take care of each other and be kind to each other. So I think empathy is something that our mental health initiative wants to focus on, and I think having this empathetic sort of environment actually helps everyone else to recover from the pandemic. So yeah, this is something that our hub, especially the mental health initiative, is trying to push for.
Great. Yeah, mental health is definitely of huge importance in this crisis. So, Roy, is there something you have to add regarding your hub doing any activities, or did you mention already every?
Yeah, besides the pandemic initiatives, we do have other initiatives, business as usual. We try to be as normal as possible, despite being far away. We still have the weekly meeting on Zoom, and we still have other initiative on different tracks on environments, on technology, still ongoing. Because I want to keep things normal. Because our hub cannot just be about pandemic. Yes, that's something we need to care most about these days, but we are trying to get things back to normal. So upcoming, we have Humanity in Tech, where we have shapers and other experts in the industry to talk about business for good, technology for good, which has been going on for roughly a year already. And we have Bear Project, which is focused on the mental wellness and self-awareness. So we're gonna do another episode of the Bear Project, where we invite the successful people to talk about the behind the scenes, like the struggles leading them to the success and what they are still experiencing, and the real side of this so-called winners, right? And something to add on besides the hub, personally, I can relate to what Michael and Sheila have been talking about regarding to the career dilemma, whether I need to stay in the big city in Shenzhen, in Beijing, or go back to my home city, small towns, and also the mental struggles, because that's something I personally been experiencing, one way or another, especially when my parents are around. My mom has been whispering to my ear, saying like, "Oh, it's a great opportunity. You should move back to Chengdu. It's a very laid back place, close to home, and you don't have to worry about those, so extreme measures in Beijing, right? Forget about it." So this kind of things happen, and when you in this downtime, when you are taking a break from the hustler life in Beijing, you really think and do reflections, and actually too much of reflections, too much thinking, which sometimes you are overthinking different things rather than taking actions. So my kind of philosophy or attitudes I'm trying to shift myself to is like do more and talk less, right? You need to adjust your career or adjust your attitudes to those uncertainties outside your capability, right? And of course, this uncertainty is always in our circumstances, but I think something we can be certain about is how we react, what our values are, what are our principles. So I think that's very important when we do reflections. Yeah, it's okay to consider factor in other elements outside of you, but it's more important to think within you, like what you most care about, despite all the changes you need to adapt to. I think personally, that's something I think, maybe the most important part and one of the bigger lessons I can take from this pandemic. So giving you some maybe examples to really pushing myself. I've been getting up early every single day since the outbreak at 7 o'clock to do a live podcast or live session, just keep myself the spirit high. And I do the daily workouts, and I've been taking some protein supplementation to work on my body. So I think it's a good time to work on yourself and stop caring so much on what's happening outside of you, because those are out of your control. It's not within your capability. You can still contribute, do this kind of live session and do all kinds of initiative, be a volunteer whatsoever. But what matters the most at the end of the day is still you, how you react, how you can get through all those, and what the lessons you can take. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. And yeah, it's amazing actually how we have been gifted, if I can say so, with the time. Like because there are always a lot of people are just like it, just like that. We don't have time for doing this, doing that, particular stuff, whatever they want to do. So right now, like I'm seeing a lot of people like I'm reading the book I always wanted to read. I'm doing art, whatever I wanted to do. Like I wanted to, like you said, work out, and I didn't have time because I had to work or study. And now they are doing this, so it's a great thing. But I have a question for you. Like you think, because I see a lot on Instagram or other pages, like sorry, social media. I mean, that people are saying if you don't use the time right now, you have like nothing, done nothing, you have like wasted the time. So you think there is some kind of pressure in performing or like doing something productive right now in the current scenario?
You're asking me, right?
Yeah, you just.
Definitely. I mean, it's a very historical time. It's a big dent in the history, because we've been talking about the Great Depression, the global financial crisis. We are experiencing, if not bigger, but exactly the same thing. So I think we should do something about it, not necessarily to like save the world, to something outside of your capability, but maybe do some writings to record this part of your life, because this can go a long way, right? Maybe in 10 years, 20 years, you have something to share. Tell your kids, your maybe grandkids about your experience during this pandemic, because that's something really has a long lasting effect, not only in your life, but the people's life around you. So I think it's really important to do, again, the reflections and to think about the lessons you want to take out of it. And yeah, I think we all should do something, like do some writings, grow some daily routine habits. I think they all can go a long way. Yeah.
I definitely agree with all your points. So yeah. Sheila, what have you to say like about what kind of personal impact did the whole situation had on your life, and how are you dealing personally with it?
Yeah, I think I'll have rethink about the balance of my work and my life. Yeah, because I was running too fast, like in the past few years, and I got sometimes anxious about the working performance or the startup company that I opened, this or that. But in the time I trapped in Wuhan, I have to just slow down and spend more time with my family, and and kind of enjoying it kind of enjoying it. So I have to think what is really important. Maybe the first thing is to keep healthy. Keep yourself healthy and keep your family healthy. That is the key point. And if you have some you can do some little contribution to those who are around. Like when I was in Wuhan, we helped to take care of the elders living upstairs alone, while his son was living in another district and cannot come here to take care of his father. So we just help this little thing that will make us feel, oh, that is different. So I think maybe that will be a good lesson for us to rethink about the balance, and keep us peace and grateful every day. Yeah.
I again,
Everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I would actually like to spend more time with my family, and maybe slow down a little bit, maybe less productive than Choi just said. Yeah, but I think mentally I'll feel better, much better. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a time where we can actually reflect ourselves, like if we can say so. So it's a great opportunity right now.
Yeah.
Michael, so what do you have to say like about the current situation? What kind of impact did it had on you, and how are you dealing or coping with it?
So I mean, like I think we sort of share similar sentiments like with Sheila and with Troy about how this time is like a historical time that you're not sure whether hopefully we'll not get this again, but like this particular moment in history where like while before that, this time, like we are so obsessed with careers, with achievements, with speed, with all the things that drives people almost crazy. And now we have this time to really slow down and to think about like, hey, so what's important to me? Like, is it my family? Is it my career? Is it my health? And I personally, I've been thinking about like, I'm like actually trying to start a startup, and particularly around like mental health, empathy. And I think this sort of period of time helped me to really crystallize and to think about what people most needed in this market. Even though it might sound like a little bit transactional, but if I could produce some sort of products that benefits them, that produce some sort of social good, I think why not? Like if we could do, business is not just about profits, but it's also about benefiting people and being a responsible and inclusive business. Then like, I think this is a time to really push out products that could benefit people, right? So this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and yeah, so yeah, really excited about it.
I feel like Troy last time told me about the word Weiji, if I'm right. Like time of crisis and time wait for you and time of opportunity. So Troy, you said something right now. Did you say something, Troy?
Yeah. 危机.
Yeah, Weiji.
That's crisis in Chinese is a combination of the Chinese character of wei as in danger and ji as in opportunity. So weiji in Chinese, crisis in Chinese means a combination of opportunities and dangers. So we need to find those opportunities, guys.
Yep.
Whether it's a mental wellness startup, go for it, Michael. Or that's online education, I don't know, but definitely we can survive this time because we've been surviving all along, no matter what, right? The stars, we've been there. And there's Alibaba who actually survived and thrived. We saw the booming e-commerce out of 2003, outbreak, right? This time around, we're gonna find out what's that industry. Maybe e-commerce again, maybe Zoom conference call apps, or gaming, or education, online education. I don't know, but it's a call for all of us, especially shapers, because we need to really give it second thoughts and what we can contribute and create some long-lasting impacts. Same here. Actually, I've been thinking about startup, and not necessarily like a startup typical one, but I've been learning a course on Acumen Academy. I learned which is about the social enterprise, all those social innovation, social entrepreneurship and sorts. So I finally had the opportunity to finish the course. For the first time for online course, I finished it because of this break of the coronavirus thing. And that's something we should be grateful about. And definitely.
Yeah, I'm like I refer to the word. I always like if I'm talking to someone, I always tell them about the word. Like it actually makes sense for me. Time of danger and time of opportunity. The whole words or the concept is great for me. So I'm just like from that point, I'm just striving with that word. Like alongside, like you said, like time of reflecting. It's about me the same. I'm just like 21 years old and I'm studying. And right now, like being at home and not studying, I just reconsidered. Do I really want to become an accountant? Like, I'm just like, and I was like freelancing all the time along. So I have brought it to another level of freelancing, I'm just getting more deep into it and I'm liking it. So we have time, we can consume it in a better way, in a positive way, with a positive impact. And I'm loving to see you all like doing that. It's amazing. So yeah, Sheila, you have to say something about this.
They too just mentioned about startup. I'm actually in this area for like almost 1 year. Yeah. Actually, my company is about mental health care. I actually worked in medical and health industries for many years, and last year I quit my job in a group company and started this, this this new company. It's about some healthy lifestyle. Yeah, I want to focus on another kind of healthcare instead of the medical one. Yeah, when people get the medical one, they actually have some illness, but when they have some adjustment of everyday daily life, they can make themselves healthier. Yeah, so I just focused on the time between working and they are back in home. The middle time of working and family. Yeah, so I think they'll need some more space for themselves. After work. So I built some unmanned intelligent space for people. Near their home, they can stay in peace for a while, or study, or working, or reading some specific books. Yeah, it's just a place of peace for urbanites. So I actually run a chain of this kind of spaces or devices that are automatic. Yeah, I think there maybe it's a space for urbanites to slow down a little bit every day. Maybe just for half an hour. Yeah, that would be much better. So actually, the name of our company is focused on one thing. In Chinese, is 专一. Yeah, it's just focused on one thing at one time. That will make you more peaceful, instead of thinking around like this or that, or worrying about this or that, and be that anxious like I like I used to be in the big company. So I think there might be some better methods for this urbanites. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because before the whole pandemic scene, I was also like always like taking three papers, giving the exams. Like I was rushing myself. I didn't need it to actually. And then I was always like, oh my God, can I do it? Can I really do it? And then waiting for the result. It was like making my mental health actually really down, but I didn't, I realized it at a point, but I was just like, okay, never mind. I'll just do it. Like, because I wanted to be at the point, I wanted to be like fast, and I wanted to be like, just be there. So it's really important, and I think people don't realize, and I feel like I don't know what thing it is it the parents, is it the whole environment that it has come so competitive. So yeah, it's great to have such places actually. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to Michael, I would like to know, like we are talking right now about startups and like the whole mental health. So what do you think, what kind of impact had it on the economy? Like what did you observe, and what do you think? Because the future, we can't predict right now anything, but we know for sure that it's going to have some huge impact. But what's your opinion on this, on the economy overall?
I mean, like in terms of the workforce, how people work will definitely change.
Yeah,
I
technology,
mean,
for example.
yeah, I mean, for example, like why do companies need a huge physical office, right? If everything could be done online, then like you don't actually need a physical office. And this might have an impact in like all the, I don't know, real estate industry where they own a whole lot of office space. Like if people start to abandon those office space, then there will be a huge trouble for those industries, right? Uh, like video conferencing is already the thing right now happening. But I think more is about how to manage people, also manage people virtually. And also there might be less traveling around, less relocation perhaps. So yeah, because like if everything could be done virtually, then there's no need to have like people moving around for jobs. They could get hired, but they stay in their hometown to work. Yeah, I think that would be something in the future. Yeah.
Is it something you are in favor of, like the digital implementation of everything?
I mean, like, people just need to get into the habit of getting used to these mode of working because it's still new for everyone. I wouldn't say I'm like in favor on or dislike it, but I do think it's a new way of working. But then this new way of working will also have some benefits, for example, to the environment, right? Like people travel less, like less carbon footprint. So these are some of the benefits that people might not realize until like once we have worked in such a mode for a prolonged period of time, then we see less like a benefit for sustainability. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Try the same question for you. Like, what do you think about the whole economy and what kinds us overall?
Yeah, we can see on the paper that the first quarter of China's GDP is down 6.9%. It's a negative number for the first time in many, many years. I couldn't even remember, right? So it's a big damage to the Chinese economy in general. But that's also a push for Chinese companies, especially tech companies, the traditional manufacturing companies to upgrade. In China, we have this Made in China 2025 initiative where we want to make China become a leader of fourth industrial revolution. And I think this time we really need to give it another push to really leverage the latest technologies like a blockchain, for the information, like a big data, algorithm, robotics, all sorts, because the data and robotics are the things really can have a bigger role in the time of crisis, especially in the pandemic like this. So I think the government will understand that. And we have the new planning just came out recently about new infrastructure. China has been leading in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the railway, this kind of traditional infrastructure, bridges, roads, all sorts. Right now, China is building another whole new level of infrastructure, which is the data age infrastructure that includes the data centers, information and biotech companies, all those. And so we're gonna see, another wave of thriving industries grow, thrive out of this crisis. But it definitely gonna take some time. But I think it's moving on to the right direction. And also the governments around the world are doing different things to stimulate the economy. Again, we see there's in Europe, in America, they have stimulus packages of the number of like $1 trillion, like trillion we're using. That's crazy. But the idea is very simple to make the economy flow again, to encourage people to spend, to help companies to pay their debt and all that. I think gradually we're gonna see it's going upward again. But in the foreseeable future, maybe for the next 2-3 quarters, the economy will be suffering. But all in all, we are talking about a pandemic, a virus here. I think it's not just a simple math or economic terms. It's more about the vaccines, the cures for the virus, for the pneumonia. So when the pandemic ends, when the virus ends, maybe it's not, maybe it's become a regular thing, another seasonal flu, but we'll see. But the ultimate tool to deal with the pandemic, to help the economy recover right now, it's a medical issue, and we need medical solution. So to help the economy recover, I'd say the first thing is to find a vaccine, to find a cure. Then we can talk more about all the technologies, all the new industries. Yeah.
Great point with the vaccine, because that's actually the main factor everyone is seeking for right now. Because if there is no vaccine, is this really becoming our normal life, like coronavirus, living with it? and how it's going to happen, because there are already some issues arising, that we're seeing people protesting for like social distancing and wearing masks and all that stuff. So yeah, Sheila, what have you to say about like the economy, and what do you think what the future scenarios may look like?
So I think the epidemic brings, like a disaster to the offline economy. Yeah, especially in some specific areas that they're like facing the economic winter. I think that would be a very long time. But I see some, innovation of some companies that is happening in traditional industries. Like in education, there are many education institutions that are still not open yet, and they're facing great damages and great losses of their in the company. But there are some of them transformed to the online education. I think the online education product is not yet perfect. It's actually you can actually can't avoid the distracted of the children who are sitting in front of the screens. They may just playing with their smartphones or just talking with someone else. So I think the innovation in some traditional industry like education, that would be that would be more changes than what is just happened now. So maybe there would be more that is happening in areas like this. And I noticed that some elders like my parents are used to shopping online. Yeah, like purchasing food or even meat, they're used to this online purchasing thing, and I think the products now are not that perfect. I think there would be more innovations happening in these areas. Maybe there would be more, big companies that is, developing fast in this epidemic situation. Yeah. So we just grab this opportunity. Yeah.
In a comparison to this, I would like to say I have like seeing my parents. I feel like they're not really used to using those that technology for those normal things like grocery shopping or other type of shopping. So I think that's the point where actually things are getting difficult for many people who are not used to these online things. Also, those people who are not used to work like from their homes or something. It's like people like me, if I was a freelancer, I wouldn't benefit, because it was for me actually the same thing, because I was staying at home. I was before and I was after that. But like people who actually are like the people who go out, who enjoy their time out at the offices, I think they are having a huge struggle. And I feel like we are having this huge change right now where everything is shifting from that manual thing to the digital platforms. So I think this will be implemented in the future too, like you said already, after some huge changes and enhancements, but things will eventually become perfect. So things like this will be implemented. So I'm really like surprised to see like how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe we'll kind of get used to the facts that.
Oh, we can't hear you. Can you repeat it?
Okay, so I think in the offline industries that we'll just have to be used to the fact that accidents happened. It just happened all of a sudden. We'll get used to it. Maybe it'll happen. I don't know. Maybe long in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on. So what I got to know is like again, we are no experts and the numbers could fluctuate a bit from the real one. But I heard it, like I saw it on social media, and I saw it while I was like getting information that there have been like, in comparison to the normal death rate due to the smoke, it was like, okay. So because of the coronavirus, people were staying at their homes. So less driving, less going out, and like less transport and traffic. So there have been that reduction in the smoke rate in China. So what I have heard, like if you can correct me or confirm, like that there have been less deaths because of the smoke than the coronavirus? Because usually there are a lot, like, I don't know, 20,000 deaths because of the smoke, and there have been less deaths because the coronavirus, people were staying home and the smoke reduced. So, Sheila, can you continue with that, and can you correct or like tell me something about this?
I think that would be better. I don't know the exact number, but I think the you know, like the air condition was better in Wuhan. Yeah, but in Shenzhen it's not that. I cannot see the difference. Yeah.
Okay. And how can you go more in depth in Wuhan, like how you see the difference there, and like how are people seeing it?
Actually, I stayed indoors in Wuhan for like 2 months, so I don't quite see the difference. It's just
So when you went out for the first time, like how was it then? Like then you had the picture of before and after. Like you have something like that you can share with us?
actually it's kind of hard because when I just get back to Wuhan, I got trapped indoors. I actually have no time to walk around.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here to add a little bit my personal thoughts? Because there's so many this kind of comparison between, you know, the coronavirus deaths and other kind of deaths, and people, I saw people complaining that, oh, those people have underlying disease. That's the reason they die from the coronavirus, and people die anyway, just a matter of time. And I think the key here, the main problem here is that we're talking about virus, which is infectious, right? And it's not like you die from cancer, which is not, you know, you cannot make other people contract from the virus. So we need, you know, the teamwork, like everybody, you know, play a part. I think that's the key difference. And I don't think there's so much point to discussing in terms of like this comparison, because we are no experts. Even experts cannot give a number, I assume. And I think the key issue here, again, the virus, and it's infectious, and once it's not well contained, we see the exponential growth, and that's really you know, damaging to the whole society. You know, it's not just like individual disease or whatsoever.
So did you like, again to the question, like did you see a difference like in the climate, for example, or in the air condition before and after? Like have you seen? Because what I'm seeing, okay, what I'm trying to say is like there are a lot of pictures. For example, we have Italy, we have the picture of Venice, where in the canals the water is completely clear now because people are not going out and not like letting their waste there and all that stuff. So the fishes came back, the strands came back. Maybe all of you have seen those pictures on Instagram or something like that. So also another picture that I have seen, and the information I read is like the picture of comparison of China. Like we see the buildings and we see a lot of smokes. We think they are clouds. But when we see pictures now, there are no clouds. You can see the clear sky. So I'm talking about this actually. You know, the climate change and the impact. Can you tell me something about that, Troy?
Yeah, because simply because the factories, the plants were closed, so the air was obviously in the plain sight are better. And I also saw those satellite footage about the comparison you talk about. There was a significant difference, like the air actually cleared out during the pandemic, during the people doing the self-quarantine. And but it's hard to estimate what does that really impact on, you know, on the citizens, on their lives, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Michael, do you have to say something about this?
I mean, it's quite hard to discuss this because I mean we are not expert in terms of the like environment and the relationship with public health, but I do think that like there's definitely some changes in what I'm feeling in Hong Kong. Like yeah, it's yesterday we was the weather was still cooler than than it was in previous years. In previous years we will be in like super hot already in late March, early April, and now we're still in a pretty breezy sort of weather. And I'm not sure how that related to like the virus and like the factory stopping and stuff. But yeah, I think that's definitely we will see more research coming out probably on that, hopefully, and then we will have more evidence to tell us like if there's a relationship or not. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so because the point was like when I had live sessions with other hubs members, they were always telling me like how they think actually the nature took a break from the people, from the human beings, because now we can see all the comparisons pictures. So I wanted actually to get to that particular point. So I don't know, Shaila, you have to say something. Did you get the point, or like should I elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, I think it's actually hard to do the comparison of these kind of topics, but I think maybe less human movement can contribute a little bit to that, but I still believe in active movement of us to do something protective, rather than we're just waiting and see what happened. Yeah, actually, I actually kind of you know think about the results of this kind of comparison is that they finally have time to notice about this.
Yeah.
People finally have time to slow down and notice about the sky is blue and the weather is good. But speak of the exact comparison, that is hard to say, but I still believe if we act more positive on these kind of environmental issues, that would be better. Yeah.
Yeah, because the main point is a lot of organizations, they were mostly like for the had the perspective of that people should drive less, should use more like trains and buses, like public transports. And people used to say it's a normal lifestyle. It's included in our daily routine. So like right now we can see that people are changing it actually because they have to change. But it could be changed like before too, because that's the point of like how people are seeing that this who are concerned about the climate change and everything. So yeah, Troy, you have to say something else about this topic, climate change regarding the pandemic.
I totally agree with Shana on the point of it's a reminder for us to see the difference, right? Because we stay indoors and we have nothing to do besides looking outside the window to get a sense of being outdoor. So they can say, oh, the blue can be this, the sky can be this clean, can be this blue, like we should do something. I mean, it's a good reminder and people realize it. And we see those footage, those comparison circling around on the social media. And but we shall wait for the further research coming out of this, like how we can take practical steps to make it better. And but it's a good starter, as in we understand the issue more in a deeper way, because we're indoor, we watch it every single day. Yeah. And we even have animals running around on the streets sometimes, especially in Wuhan, right? I saw some viral TikTok videos on the internet of like some rabbits, some deer running around in different cities. Yeah, that's new. Yeah,
Lisa,
so
have you seen something like this, or like what have you to say about it, like in Wuhan?
We've seen some videos that rabbits are running on the roads. That is very wonderful, I think. Yeah, but I think just like the Choi just said, I think the pulse of this kind of human movement that can't last long. When the epidemic disappeared, we'll have to get back normal to life. We will still have to drive and still have to get back to work. So this kind of pulse of this human social life that cannot last, we'll have to find what is really useful. What is the key points of this kind of the pollution, the key point of this, what is happening. so that we can take real actions of this kind of movement. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like we all are learning a lot from the current situation regarding the pollution, regarding social distancing, how to deal actually with working at home. There are different aspects we are like unfolding and learning about. So yeah, that's great. So the last point that I have is like I mentioned it in the beginning. We are seeing some protests, like people in the US or in the Europe, like protesting against social distancing or like wearing masks. So we have seen China like has kind of overcome the pandemic in a way of through the lockdown, through taking all these measures. So moving on with Michael, what do you think like about this whole thing? Because I feel like we can see China as an example because they have like I said, overcome the pandemic in a very good way. They are still like China is still on their way, but they have come very far, like in comparison to the beginning. So, what do you have to say about the protest and how you think is a lockdown? How far is a lockdown important? Michael, please, could you continue?
Are you asking about like how like some other places that just are experiencing the virus could learn from China? I mean,
Yeah,
like
what do you think
taking
about
example from Hong Kong, we still have our normal day, but then we take all the like precautions, like wearing a mask. We are like being super hygienic, and we also I mean taking all these measures and being mindful about like social gatherings. Uh, is something that needs to be done, and it is a time where like people need to band together and help each other, and not about whether I have a choice to wear a mask or not, or whether I have a choice to do this or do that. I think it's more about like now is the critical time for everyone to do their part in helping to reduce the number of infections. It's a group effort. It's definitely not a for one player to do anything. It's really about team.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's also not only up to the government, it's also up to the people who are living in the country and the citizens of the country. So, right. Troy, what's your point of view regarding the protests that are happening, and what would you suggest, like regarding the lockdown? How important is the lockdown?
Yeah, I'm gonna give my most honest opinion. I know it's recorded, but honestly speaking, it's really ridiculous. But understandably, it's the different culture and societies. And it's unfortunate some people, especially politicians, are, taking advantage of this whole situation and politicize the whole situation. We see some state leader, scapegoating and playing the blaming cards. Some people say this Chinese virus, virus, which is for me really stupid and ridiculous because we are in this fight together and we need international collaboration. If you want to, there's something we could be done better. There's nothing wrong with that. But at this time, when the world is suffering and people are playing the blaming card, I think it's just irresponsible, especially for the state leaders. And it's unfortunate to see those kind of protests without social distancing on the street, protesting for this, all the measures, because like Wuhan was lifted out of the lockdown after 3 months, and just 1 month into the lockdown in United States, in other countries, they are talking about recovery. They don't know the invisible venom they are fighting with. They have no sense of common sense. They don't have common sense. And at the end of the day, it's gonna be the international collaboration, and people must to come to senses and work together. Because if this country does not cooperate, other people also will suffer. But so I just think this world might be more divided, and we're gonna see the globalization trends reversed. It's a very unfortunate scenario, but I personally anticipate that happening. And we see some survey coming out already. Like after this pandemic, the US citizens, have favorable views of Chinese people. The rate has been dropping a lot in the all-time low. And it goes both ways. Also, Chinese people have very negative views, more negative views about American. So we see this world more divided. And so that's the point of whole discussion. Like people from different places, like young people, come together to share insights, to share what's happening, the facts, the truth, rather than join the battle of ideologies, right? Talking about draconian measures, talking about communism, socialism, capitalism. I think this is not the point. I mean, we are fighting a virus. It's not like it's just something necessary to do. It's not about ideology. So I think we should handle the solution to the professional ones, which is medical staff, doctors, right? The vaccines researchers, to give them support to do our part rather than argue, rather than, join the, again, battle of ideas. I think it's pointless and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. We are seeing on one hand, people are joining hands, like we are collabing. For example, we are an example that we are having those live sessions. We are talking to each other, we are connecting, and we are supporting each other. But on the other hand, people are actually doing that blame game that you mentioned right now. So that's inappropriate because we all are impacted by this. Everyone is equally impacted by this. So yeah, that's something people should consider before like saying something or similar to this. Yeah. Shayla, what's your point of view regarding this? Quickly share with us, please.
So we've seen the protest against the, social distancing in some areas. I think the first of all, the social distancing is a useful method. It's a useful method, but in terms of different risk levels of different areas, I think the policies can be different. Like in Wuhan is the first city to be knocked down by the virus, and all things are new. So we have to use the strict policy to lock down the whole city and maybe have very big influence on everyone's daily life. But in some other areas, maybe we know the virus more, and we can make some more useful policies. And the second one is that Wuhan has over 10,000 people. It's very crowded in the city. Yeah, maybe in some other areas that would be different. We cannot use one method to all the places that are affected in the epidemic, and we cannot blame that other areas are not using the same method. Yeah, I think maybe in the United States or in the United Kingdom, they'll have some other useful methods that are suitable in these areas. We cannot blame, and we can try to help. And the third one is that, as just Troy said, about the, maybe we need to join hands in this epidemic and, sharing informations and maybe use the medical ways to solve the medical problems. And maybe for us, Global Shapers, we can try to, transfer some medical contents into, like some popular videos or articles to share with people around us, to make us to make people better understand the virus. I think the better understanding of the virus will help to less the conflicts about the protest or the blaming of these policies.
Shayla, we can't hear you. Hear you right now. Okay, yeah, continue, please.
Okay, so did you hear what I said just now?
The last sentence, just like you can repeat the last sentence. We heard everything before that.
Okay, so I think there will be more useful ways, and maybe we need to respect the different policies in different areas. because we don't actually know enough information about why they make these policies. We cannot blame. It's just use our imaginations. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you in this point because in different countries they have different cultures, different behavior actually regarding different scenarios, and so people react differently. Again, different. So yeah, that's actually we can't blame it on other people, and we can't like implement exactly the same measures that have been taken by a particular country because first of all, maybe that country don't have all the equipment or all the necessary items they need to have. Maybe the people, like if I compare, like I compared in the beginning, the people from China and Pakistan, like China, they follow the rules, and Pakistan, you have a bit to push them. So it all obviously depends on all these little things actually. And I feel like those are little things like staying at home, like social distancing. If you implement them, like the more you implement them, the faster you will get out of the whole scenario. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. So I think we are coming to an end, and at the very, very end, I would like to hear like something you would like to say, kind of a message to the people who are or who will be watching us. So Michael, what's your message to the people in this current situation?
I would say stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe, and this will pass. But this during this like that period of time, it might be tough. But then yeah, it will there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Troy, what's your message to the people?
Yeah, also like to end on a very positive note. We're gonna survive again and hopefully thrive from this crisis. And individually, we should play our part and contribute to the solution of the virus. Help out whenever you can within your capability, and try to take the time, maybe take a break from your career, rethink about your life, do some reflections, focus on your personal growth. And yeah, you will go through, but it needs all of us to join hands. And again, we are in this fight together, and we shall prevail.
Thank you, Sheila. Your message to the people.
So the first of all, I would like to appeal to reject the discrimination against those who are from the epidemic area, and from those who recovered from COVID-19. There are a lot of people who recovered. Yeah, that is the first one, and the second one is to stay calm and take it easy. Yeah, things will be fine. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much. I definitely agree with your messages and everything you said. Actually, it makes totally sense. And yeah, thank you very, very much for joining me today and sharing the current situation in China. And hopefully we will get over it. We are seeing China developing so has come so far from the pandemic from the beginning. We all have been watching it. So yeah, we just all can hope for the best. And yeah, to everyone watching us, stay home, stay safe. So because you are not infected by going out doesn't mean you can't carry it, because you actually can carry it and can get infected other people who are close to you. So yeah, that's all for today. And thank you very much for joining me, Michael, Troy, and Sheila. It was very informative. And I really hope to see you soon and catch up with you on the current situation at that particular point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good
guys.
night. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.